What's good, y'all? Over the last 15 years, I've worked with 5 Fortune 500 companies. These are the 15 job interview tips that help me land multiple six-figure jobs. Before we dive in, make sure you like this video and follow or subscribe to my YouTube channel. All right, first things first, screenshot this. This is over 15 years of things I wish I knew when I graduated from college in 2006, bro. Let's break this down. The first tip is never show up to a job interview cold. What I mean by that is, if you go to any sporting event, football, basketball, golf, any sport, what is the first thing they do before they play? They warm up. And what did they likely do before that game all week? Practice. But for some reason, when we have a job interview, that's the time when we think we can wing it. Well, they probably just like me. They're not going to really ask me any questions. Bro, you should always practice before a job interview, the week leading up, the night before. You can't come up to a job interview and just figure out, I'll wing it and be cold. And then when they ask you a question, well, tell me about a time when you failed. Tell me about a time when you led a team. Tell me about a time when you went above or beyond for a customer. And those are the first times you've ever heard those types of questions. You cold, bro. You're not going to get the job. And in 2025, it's even more challenging because the job market is tight. For one job, 1,000 people are applying for it. And if you're fortunate enough to get a job interview and you show up with no preparation, you're wasting the interviewer's time, you're wasting your own time, and honestly, you're hurting your livelihood, man. These job interviews are no games, especially with artificial intelligence that can do the job better and cheaper and faster than you can, bro. So you have no choice in 2025 but to lock in and show up to your interview ready to perform. You should also expect to be asked about the money. So do your homework. Early in my career, I would never forget, I was interviewing for a company. I was talking to the recruiter. The vibe was dope, energy on the call. And he asked me, what's your salary expectations? And I tell you what, I know he was like, bro, who is this dude? I froze. I was fumbling. Well, I started my career as a teacher. I really don't need much. I couldn't say a number, y'all. And this was a big job early in my career. And I just remember the recruiter going, like, I got him. This dude is not ready to talk about money. We can give him a lowball job offer. I ended up withdrawing myself from that interview process because I was so embarrassed because I wasn't ready to talk about money. So make sure you go to Glassdoor.com, research the salary. Some jobs, depending on how big the company is, the job posting has a salary range, but you should know your number, do your homework, and be ready to negotiate. And say it with confidence. I'm expecting $100,000 or I'm expecting $50,000. Make sure it's within that range. Don't ask for the max that you see online for the job posting. But it should be enough that you can feel it. So at least $10,000 to $20,000 above your current salaries is how I typically will start the negotiation. But once I have a great job interview, then I can negotiate higher. The STAR method, man. Every question, tell me about a time we led a team. Tell me about a time when you failed. Tell me about a time when you managed conflict. You should always use the STAR method to answer those interview questions because it gives the interviewer a logical way to evaluate you. If you're all over the place, well, I did this, I did that, and you're nervous, they're taking notes. They have to take that information and then put it into a system to be able to evaluate you as a candidate, so it's not biased based on the entire candidate pool. And there's going to be a debrief with everybody you interview. What did you think about Marcus? What did you think? What did you think? And they're going to go through their notes. But if you can't give them a structured answer, they're going to be like, well, he was a nice guy, but I don't have a lot of data to validate he can do this job. That's why during the interview, if you ask, tell me about a time we led a team, you should jump right into the STAR method. Situation, while working for company XYZ, I was a marketing manager responsible for our loyalty program. As I evaluated our performance over the last quarter, I uncovered that our retention rate was starting to decline. My task was to evaluate our loyalty program to understand how we can retain more members. The first action that I took was to look at our dashboard to compare our retention rate across every customer segment within our loyalty program. And what I uncovered is that our very best customers, we were retaining them, but those that were new to the program, our retention rate was much lower. The end result is I developed an email campaign targeting those new to the program customers with special offers and surprise and delight opportunities This resulted in us increasing our retention rate with that lower customer base. Y'all, this is off the dome. I literally have no notes, but I've been practicing the STAR method for 15 years that I can come to any interview and deliver a structured answer to those questions. You have to get to that level, and you only can do that through practice, practice, and more practice. Tip number 4 is you have to ask the interviewer questions during and at the end of the interview. The most common mistake is candidates do not even take advantage of that last 10 to 15 minutes, bro. I never forget, recently I was on a panel interviewing this dope candidate for an engineering role. He was like, boom, I can do this. And his answers to the question was so dope. And the interview was an hour, and that last 15 minutes, myself and the other panelists was like, yo, we got to make sure we give him the 15 minutes. So we went through all of our questions, and we got to the end. We said, all right, do you have any questions for us? And bro said, nah, I'm good. And bro, I wanted to be like, yo, you need to ask me. And it was like the air went out of that Zoom call. The room we were in, we were like, because that's where you shine, bro. When you prepare and ask questions like, hey, I was listening to the earnings call last night, and I noticed that you're really focusing on the European market. In this role, would I be able to help accelerate that strategy? Or how would you describe the culture? You've been here for how many years? Okay, what's your experience been like? And then if you're talking to the boss, the director above, like, well, what keeps you up at night? How can I help you in that role, in this role, to sleep better? Though that last 15 minutes, man, that's your chance to show that you want this job. You care so much that you research the company, and the people that are interviewing you are like, yeah, we work here. I'm so glad. Like, yeah, I'm working on the European market. Yeah. Like, you see how we play. But when you don't ask any questions, it's a red flag. It shows you're not prepared. Maybe you're not interested. Why are you even here if you're not engaged in the process? So always ask questions. Tip number 5 is bring high energy. That is probably the biggest cheat code in an interview. If you have your energy high on the phone interview, in person, you're excited about the company, it rubs off on everybody. Oh, I really like working with Marcus. Whenever I have a phone interview, hey, how you doing? May I speak to Marcus? Yes, it's Marcus. How you doing today? Awesome. I'm so excited to talk with you about this opportunity. Yes, now is still a good time. Like, my energy stays at a 10 because people like to work with energetic people, and you have to bring that, bro. You have to make sure they feel connected. They can feel your presence on the phone, in the room. So bring high energy. Tip number 6, you got to research the company. Go on the company's website. Make sure you know who's the customer, how they make money, and then any current events. What are they doing? What's something new that you read on their website, the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg? Make sure you do your research. Tip number 7 is never accept the first job offer. You got to negotiate. Do not accept the first job offer. Coach, I did that from 2013 to 2018. I accepted every job offer I received. I never negotiated because nobody taught me that in school. I thought you update your resume, you apply for the job, interview for the job, accept the job. That's all I knew. Until I got further along in my career, I started talking to HR professionals. He was like, nah, bro, we expect you to negotiate. I started researching in 2018, 2019. And negotiating helped me get to 6 figures, y'all. You have to negotiate your job offer. Never accept the first one. Tip number 8 is all about psychology, man. It's something that is not talked about. You have to be thankful for the no's. In 2025, you're going to get so many auto rejects, man. If you really applying like daily, but you have to train your mind to say, when you get rejected from that job, you got to say thank you. Because I know for a fact this is not the job for me. And I'll move on to the next one. If you have a spreadsheet with all the companies, I'm talking about folks that are locked in. We got the companies, the date you applied, the date of your interview, who you're interviewing with, end result. Just when you get that no, you got to smile, man. Like, I'm one step closer to my yes. So make sure you are thankful for those no's. Tip number 9, you got to practice, bro. Practice, and practice some more. That is the key to you performing at your very best during a job interview. I would record myself on Zoom, bro, during the interview. Tell me about yourself, Marcus, and I will share my screen and answer the question. I will FaceTime my friends and family, people that I know and trust. Like, I don't take job interviews for granted, bro. If you say you're gonna interview Marcus, oh, you're gonna get the best. And I put in the work, and that's how I've gotten multiple six-figure offers because I'm locked in. You got to take notes. That's tip number 10. Take notes during the job interview and have your pre-notes already ready. So whenever I have a job interview, I'll have a one-pager and I'll have who I'm interviewing with, what's the company, then I'll have the time. If it's an hour, then I'll have 5 star demos. Tell me about a time you led a team. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about a time you failed. Why do you want this job? Tell me about a time you went above and beyond for the customer. And I will have words on that piece of paper that trigger that response. So for example, if they ask me, tell me about a time you led a team, I'll have that question on the side and I'll have loyalty. And so I know the example I'm going to share is the loyalty. And I'll just have that written. And then when I'm during the job interview, I'm also taking notes from the person that's interviewing me. So I want to know what their vibe is and their experience. And I also have a section for my 3 questions. So I know when they say, do you have any questions for me? Yeah, I do. And I'll turn to that page and say, well, can you tell me more about the culture? I was reading online that's very important about being able to have mobility when you join the organization. Well, I have an opportunity to get exposure to other parts of the business. Like, have that already ready. And then also, when you recap your interview, you can look at your STAR method answers and say, oh, I used the loyalty one. Check that one off. Write an X through that one. Or I used the one about the time that I failed for that marketing campaign. X that one out. And the reason why you want to do that is because after that, if you pass that round, the next interview, you don't want to repeat the same STAR method answers, bro. That's that elite preparation. So, I can't talk about the loyalty because during the debrief, they're all going to come together and say, hey, what did you hear about Marcus? What did you hear? And you want everybody to have some different sauce. And you do that by taking the notes, bro, and being diligent about your preparation so that when it's game time and you can recap how you perform or I'm moving to the next round, well, I'm getting a brand new set of STAR demos so I can give you all the data to know I'm the best candidate for the job. Tip number 11 is very important. The most important job interview question is tell me about yourself. That's really how you set the tone for your interview. And it's always the first question. So you want to practice your answer to that. It should be a response within 60 seconds. I have several videos on my YouTube of how to introduce yourself during a job interview, but really focus on who you are, what I've done, why I'm here, and then lastly, what I like to do outside of work. And that I'll tag that video below, but that's very important so they can feel a connection. Like maybe you're a foodie, you like to travel, you love to read. Like bring that out in your answer to that question so that you're trying to find a connection point with the person you're interviewing with. And you have to do that in 2025 because again, they can just use AI, bro. 5 years from now, they're going to be robots doing a lot of these jobs. That is really going to happen. It's happening right now. So you have to have a human connection and bring that out in that answer to that question. Tip number 12 is dress for the occasion, man. Business casual or better, depending on the job. Let me tell you, man, I know it's a lot of casual, like t-shirts and jeans. Bro, the job interview is still a place that should be respected with your attire, man. You can't show up with t-shirts and some shorts, man, and flip-flops and expect to get a job. You have to show the company, yourself, the hiring manager, your family, your last name, that I respect myself enough that if I'm going to stand before you and be evaluated for this job, I'm going to show you that I'm the best. Your attire shows that. You don't have to wear a full suit, but you at least need to have a polo shirt and some slacks, fellas, or blouse and some slacks, or a dress, ladies. You got to show up and dress for the occasion. Now, after you get hired, they might have a very relaxed dress code. They may not require you to be all dressed up, but for the interview, dress for the occasion. Suit up. Just like you used to do if you're a former athlete. When you had a game, you put on that suit. You put on that white shirt and that black tie in high school. You need to have the same energy for your job interview. At the end of the job interview, there's this weird pocket of time when you don't have any more questions because you've asked them all, and the interviewer has no more questions to ask you because y'all been there for 30, 45 minutes. And then no one knows how to end the interview. This is your moment to make a lasting impression by asking them for the job. You can do something as simple as, you know what? I really appreciate your time, John. I really learned a lot throughout this process interviewing with everyone here. And I can just tell that this culture is a place where I can really thrive and achieve my career goals. I do believe with over 15 years of professional experience in product management as well as marketing, really carving out a niche for myself to really build technology that powers marketing and helps reach the customer. And I also believe I'm a strong cultural fit. With my background, my education, and my experience, I believe I'm the best candidate for this job. Stand up, and I want you to hire me for this job. That last phrase, I want you to hire me for this job. 99.9% of candidates in the entire world will never say that phrase in an interview. If you do that, the last thing that this hiring manager heard was, Marcus wants me to hire him for the job. He must really want this job. Other candidates are like, well, thanks. And they nervously end the interview or hit the button to end the Zoom. But you're the rare breed. You're the pro that's leaving a lasting impression by asking for the job. Tip number 14 is before the job interview. You should research the salary, yo. Early in my career, I was nowhere near focused on the money. My homeboy, Cam Ward, I was like, bro, you spent all this time researching the company, but you ain't figure out how much money they're going to pay you, bro. Start with the money. And I was like, you're right. You can have all the research on the company. You can know how they make money, the culture, know their customer, current events. But if you don't know how much money they can pay you or what you're willing to accept, that's when the interview becomes awkward. So before that first job interview, I need you to research the salary and then decide, all right, this is what I'm willing to accept. And I'll always recommend $10,000 to $15,000 above your current salary, or 10 to 20% above your hourly rate. But you have to figure out what is the number that when it hits your bank account, you're like, yeah, okay, I can feel this move in my career. And then lastly, always take the job interview. Even if you love your current job. But here's the thing. You have to look at yourself as a business. And a business owner is always going to listen to other opportunities. You can always say no, but you need to understand what's going on in the market. If you've been with your job 5, 10, 15 years, I would even say 2, 3, 4 years, and you haven't had any interviews with external companies, that's a problem. Because you're, number one, you're not building a network of recruiters that you can come to and say, hey, listen, I know early in the year you reached out, it wasn't good timing, but I would like to see if there's still opportunities. So one, you're building a network. Two, you understand what the market is really paying for your job title. Because your current company is not required to pay you the max or pay you the market value for your skills. And you may have done other things since you got that job that other companies will see as very valuable. So you want to understand what is the market. Always keep your pulse in the market. And my mentor told me this 20 years ago. He said, Marcus, you can always say no. Just because they offer you the job doesn't mean you have to accept it, but you have to at least explore it and keep your options open. So always keep your options open. Team, if this was helpful, I need your help. Make sure you like this video. Let me know in the comments which one of these interview tips really helped you. And make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll be the first to know whenever I drop new career tips. I'll see you next time.